the Genesis Center for Spiritual Living. So today is going to be a fun service. Our band introduced and said at the last minute that they do have food poisoning, but we still will have wonderful music here today. But I did want to give a big prayer and a big, just a big condolences to Rick and the band today, and just wish you all the very, very, very best. So, with that being said, let us stand and sing our opening song, Our Soul is Welcome Here.
Here at Genesis. Our online host today, Cynthia, is our online host, and so feel free to say hello in the chat if you want to, and if you are a new online, tell us how you found Genesis. That's always fun. I love going back and reading the little comments and saying, oh, this is how I found Genesis, this is how I found Genesis. For me, that's just, that's how I spend my Sunday afternoons. Anyway, so Genesis is in the process of bringing in a new minister currently, and so I will invite you all to join us in saying our new minister, a Secret Covenant Easy Prayer. I recognize there is one life. This life is God's life. This life is my life now. I am one with His life and all its blessed expressions, which includes the presence of a new minister for Genesis Center for Spiritual Living as the revelation of God as love. As Ernest Holmes says, I dwell in the house of love. Love attends me in my home of the soul. I shall never leave this home of the spirit. I shall abide in this home forevermore. Feeding into this love, I experience my new minister in full cooperation and agreement with my community, knowing these powerful truths about myself. I am powerfully expressing divine love, inspiring all to do the same. I am blessing and honoring all paths of spirituality, awakening deeper truths and spiritual growth. I am a place where God shows up, expressing divine love, allowing truth and joy to heal all. I am embracing, teaching, and exploring spiritual truths from diverse spiritual teachings. I am teaching and embodying prosperity, trusting that God is the source of my good. I now accept this highest expression of spirit as myself, and I know this expression is now being revealed as the new minister that deserves the highest and greatest good for Genesis. I am grateful, we are grateful, and so it is.
And so now we'll go to our announcements. For more details about our announcements, you can visit genesiscsl.org, or you can search for Genesis Spiritual Living on social media. For me, I like to use Facebook. My kids say that's for old people, but whatever. You can use Twitter. What?
You just whatever does.
I just whatever does, okay. Well, that's what my kids say. Whatever, all right. Anyway, so let's get on to our announcements today. So today, from 12 to 1:30, is Reclaiming Joy After Loss. Join Cynthia Zink and Diane Dyer in a caring, safe, and supportive environment for this amazing journey in mending your heart. And it's going to be a perfect place to go after today's message. Just a little foreshadowing there. Big update. The Genesis Board of Directors have served this committee during times of great transition and global uncertainty. We extended our membership as a promise to take care of this community in these unprecedented times, while the search for a new minister could go on, together with Reverend Eric's prosperity consciousness and enthusiastic vision. We have made it through this great transition to the other side. It is now time for the board to begin another transition and welcome in new members. We are honored to serve this incredible community and are ready to train those who are called to serve on the board of directors. Applications are available now at the volunteer desk, or there is a link in our website to download and send an application. Please submit your application to Gideon by May 7th, either in person or via email at info@genesiscsl.org. Feel free to reach out to any board member with questions. These applications will be vetted at the next board meeting on May 11th. This committee will vote on final applicants at the next annual committee. And so who's on the board here? I just want to give a quick raise of your hands here. These people have just absolutely honored this community, and I just wanted to give a good shout out. So if we could just give a as a board practitioner, I get a chance to listen to their consciousness and all that they do and making such hard work for these places. So I'm just absolutely so grateful. Update on Care Circle Meetup. We've had an opportunity that requires us to change the nature of our April 30th gathering. It is a potluck meeting with Care Circles, but we'd like the entire community to come and meet and greet two potential candidates for a co-ministry at Genesis at the start of the meeting. We hope to see as many people there as possible. So if you're here today, come next week, because we're going to get to see the two potential new ministers that we just did the easy prayer for, and so it's a great place to be. Every Wednesday at 7 p.m., join Karen Williams and Cynthia Sink for Intention Circle. Join us in creating more miracles in our lives. A love offering is appreciated, and it is an absolutely divine place to do if you want to manifest greatness in your life. Join Cynthia and Karen Williams and manifest awesomeness. And last but not least, we have practitioner Carrie Williams' Flowing Guide through the entire Science of Mind textbook in 1 year. Every day you will find posted on the Facebook page Karen L. Williams, RSCP, at the Genesis family page. And the quick thing I wanted to say about this is, for me, I sometimes get out of my little spiritual practice, and I think this is an absolutely fantastic way to just have a little hit of the good stuff every morning. You can read, you get your Genesis, your inner Ernest Holmes and your CSL going on there. So I definitely encourage you to do that. All right. So, is there anyone here for the first time today? If there is, yeah, feel free to introduce. So what's your name?
I'm John. This is Burien. We live in Mexico. We're taking care of a house. We're living there for the next 3 months. So.
Well, cool. Well, cool. We're glad you're here today.
That explains a nice tan.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it does.
Definitely have to Washington tan. Maybe in a couple of months or after July. After July 4th, as they usually say around here. That's when it starts the sun, right after.
Yeah.
All right, so now is our time that we can get up and meet and greet with each other. So let us get up, stand up, and if you're comfortable, you can give a hug to each other. If not, you can just say hi to each other.
Thank you.
But I can't hold my house.
And we're about,
I don't.
I'm super cute.
From here? From Cecil or Is there a new thought? You've gotten around. You sound wonderful. That's great to meet you again.
Nice to see you again.
that could be fun.
Well, I just absolutely love to be able to get up and meet and greet. That's kind of fun. I know that during 2020 when we had the whole COVID thing, that was something I dearly missed. So I just am so blessed to be able to get to meet and greet each other. So before we go any further in the service, does anybody not have a prayer card? So if you don't have a prayer card, and that's why, yes, I'm talking to having first people here. So if you don't have a prayer card, can we give people, just raise your hand if you don't have a prayer card, anything, and we'll have ones brought to you. So at this moment, I would like to give some appreciation to the volunteers that are in service today. We have Jim over to my right running our sound today and doing an awesome job. We have Michael Johns in the back running the projector, and Gideon. Gideon's not the online host. We have Cynthia doing the online host. I'm going all around the room. Oh, Sebastian. Sebastian doing the online host. Ooh, awesome, cool. Thanks, Sebastian. And so I just wanted to give, a special appreciation. It really takes a community to get all together to have these volunteers. So let's just give all these people a round of applause. And everyone. And we're really absolutely grateful for all the volunteers that show up every Sunday. We could not pull this together without you. And we have openings for other volunteers. So if you want to be a part of this, if you want to come and, as I say, roll out the red carpet and see how this whole production works, you can be a part of that. So just volunteer and be a part of the setup team or the breakdown team. And we're trying to get to do this to volunteer people ahead of time so it's not the same people every week. I love being here and being a part of this, but you know what? There's sometimes that we want to take the week off, so volunteer can come be a part of this. And if you want to, you can see Cynthia or Gideon at the volunteer desk. So today, our service practitioner is the wonderful Cynthia Zink. And before Cynthia comes to the stage and does this and gives her beautiful prayer and reading, we are going to sing our song, which is going to be led by Odel.
And I wrote it.
That's right.
So I should be able to sing it, right? All right, so stand and join me. It goes like this. Out beyond ideas of right and wrong, there's a field. I'll meet you there. Out beyond ideas of right and wrong, there's a field. I'll meet you there. A field of love, a field of forgiveness, a peace that passes understanding. Out beyond ideas of right and wrong, there's a field. I'll meet you there. There's a field. I'll meet you there. We did the short version today.
Yes, we did.
Good job. You all sound great.
That much taller than I am? Hello? It's not working. Oh, there.
There you go.
I need to get closer. I want you all to know it's hard to find science of mind reading on death, dying, and the afterlife. Thank you very much, Reverend Gary. So, I went to a book that we had in PAC training called Who Dies by Stephen and Andrea Levine. And he has several stories in here that I chose this one just because it made me laugh. Some years ago, I spent time with a teenage boy who was dying of a brain tumor. That's not what made me laugh. We hadn't talked much until he asked, "What is it going to be like when I die? What do you think death is like?" And I told him I didn't know what death was like, but there seemed to be certain kinds of experiences spoken of in the writings of various stages, as well as the outcome of recent research with those who had been clinically dead and then resuscitated. Udi's book, Life After Life, had just been published, and I related to the boy some of the experience that those who died mentioned about in the first stages of death. How they viewed the body as from above and had some recognition of not being that body. Sharing with him some possibilities of how to stay open to this process, we went through the whole scenario. Occasionally an ah would escape from his lips. They speak of being outside their body, I told him, and able to move as fast as thought. He frowned and said, "Could I create thunderstorms and lightning?" I said, "I don't know if you could or not, but sense that once you are outside this body, that has been giving you so much trouble, you might have a different perspective on all of this. You might have a different take on how these troubles that anger you so much now have actually brought you a kind of compassion and maturity. You might not even be angry. It might not even occur to you to create thunder and lightning. He wasn't so sure about that. You know, a few minutes after you die, you are going to know more about death than any of the so-called experts like me. Many people speak of moving down a corridor or across a river, some kind of barrier, and coming into the presence of a great loving light. There may be a being of great wisdom there to guide you, who some have seen as Jesus and others as Buddha. Wow, he said, it will be like meeting Spock. Teenagers just have a whole different And then a reading from Ernest Holmes. I cannot base my hopes of immortality on the revelation of anyone but myself. So far as I am concerned, nothing can exist to me unless I am aware of it. While I believe in other men's revelations, I am sure only of my own. I look upon the belief in immortality neither as a vague dream nor a forlorn hope, but as a proven fact. One cannot doubt that which he senses. His reason and his personal experiences in one field, more than in another, immortality, or the continuation of personal existence beyond this life, has been so completely demonstrated to me that it would be unthinkable for me to assume an opposite position, even for the purpose of debate. Here within myself is something that knows. Here is something knows that it is, and knows that life itself moves with time as irresistible as the recurring seasons. So Ernest does not believe in reincarnation. But what he's saying in here is that we all have to figure out for ourselves what we believe as the afterlife. If you grew up in the Christian church, you're probably thinking of heaven and hell. Maybe there is a heaven and hell, but maybe not. And we really won't know until we die. So, if you would join me in prayer. There is one power and one presence in the universe, and that presence is God. For God is all there is. God is love and joy, peace and prosperity, beauty and harmony. God is in everything that we see and everything that is unseen. God is present with us at all times, no matter what. That is that omnipresence, that omniscience, that omnipotent being is in, around, and through all that we are, animate or inanimate. God is there. And I know that I am one with it, and it is one with me. And I know this to be true for each person here today, knowing that oneness that brings us all together in the faith that we know, that we love, that we have deep inside each of us. And so I accept today for each person here of that loving presence of God within, knowing that it sits and holds us dear, that it is that love, that joy, that peace within. Knowing that no matter what we do, where we are, what we say, who we are with, that presence, that divine love is within each of us. And that gives us joy. It gives us comfort. It gives us the grace and ease to live our lives in a peace that passes all understanding. And knowing this to be true, I am grateful for all of this. I'm grateful for my life. I'm grateful for the rain we had last night. I'm grateful for the sunshine that will follow. I am grateful for all of life. And I release these words into the action of the law, knowing that the law has already said yes, that all we have to do is accept recognize it, and say, thank you, God. And so it is. Amen.
Thank you, Cynthia. You know, I was a music director for many years, and I'm not really a very good singer, and I don't really play the piano. So for there to be music at a service on a Sunday, there would have to be musicians. And for many, 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 many years, my nightmare was that no musicians would show up. And so today, there's no musicians. And I am finally meeting, and it's actually not that bad. And what I want to say is I had asked Rick to learn this song, and it's On a Clear Day. And probably everybody's heard it, knows this song. But the thing that I remembered about it was that the movie, it's from a movie with Barbra Streisand, and it's from the 60s. And it's about this woman who has psychic abilities. She can make plants grow, and she goes to see a past life regressor, and he regresses her to an earlier lifetime of hers. And he falls in love with the girl from, you know, the 1800s in England. Anyway, it's kind of a goofy movie. But anyway, this song is about being able to see past lives. On a clear day, rise and look around you, and you'll see who you are. On a clear day, how it will astound you that the glow of your being outshines every star you feel part of. Every mountain, sea, and shore you can hear from far and near, a world you've never heard before. And on that clear day, on that clear day, you can see forever and ever and ever more. I did not know I was going to be singing today. So this month we are looking at life and afterlife, and it felt like a normal fit because it's the month of Easter. And in my experience in New Thought services, usually you kind of talk about Easter and you sort of relate to death and the afterlife as it is taught in the Christian traditions. And I wanted to expand beyond that. So I have been talking really about life, death, afterlife, and reincarnation. And I'm coming from a place of what I believe. I am not doing this because I would need you to believe what I believe. I long ago let go of any attachment to what other people believe. But I am hoping that by talking about these things, it will stimulate your interest in the subject, will help you prepare for your own death and whatever happens afterwards, and will at least stimulate you to come to an understanding of what you believe. Okay, so to continue with this thing about life and afterlife, I'm going to tell you 3 stories today. The first one's a little bit longer, one's really short, and then one's middle size. So now you know where we're going. 3 stories. Okay. Now, why am I telling stories? Because the average listener doesn't remember facts and figures very well, or intellectual concepts, but we do have a propensity to remember stories. And Jesus often taught in stories. I mean, the story of the woman at the well, and the prodigal son, and, you know, all of these stories. And he also spoke in metaphors. And in Matthew chapter 13, there's a collection of metaphors that Jesus made about heaven. And many confirm the concept of good people going to heaven and bad people going to burn in hell. But he also told these 2 little tiny metaphors. They're called parables, but they're really just a metaphor. And he says, again, the kingdom of heaven is like treasure hidden in a field which a man found and hid. And for joy over it, he goes and sells all that he has in order to buy that field. So to discover heaven is to discover something so precious you can give up everything for it. Or he says again, the kingdom of heaven is like a merchant seeking beautiful pearls, who when he found one pearl of great price, went and sold all he had and bought it. And what I think that what Jesus is doing here, he's actually reaffirming or reiterating the belief in Hinduism and Buddhism that the whole point of life is to attain enlightenment. That's the pearl of great price. To attain spiritual liberation, spiritual understanding, the great heart of compassion, and that your whole life should be about that and nothing else. And that's what I think. So I think in a moment here, Jesus is actually revealing his Buddhist Hindu self. So that's why I want to include that. A discussion of what other religions teach about heaven and the afterlife would not be complete without mentioning that many religions teach that there are multiple levels of hell and heaven. In Dante's Divine Comedy, there are 9 levels of hell, the bottom level being Satan himself, who is bound down there. He's the fallen angel. And I love that Dante wanted to describe in elaborate detail all the horrible things that happen to people at the different levels of hell. It apparently had a lot of fun imagining, bad things happening to people. But he also said that there were 9 levels of purgatory and 10 levels of heaven, the top being conscious union with the divine. So in the Divine Comedy, there's 9 levels of hell, 9 levels of purgatory, 9 levels of heaven, and then conscious union with the divine. Now, how many people have ever heard the phrase, I'm in the 7th heaven, or it sent me in the 7th heaven? Well, that's from Muhammad said that there were 7 levels of heaven and hell in Islam, and there are also multiple levels of heaven in Hinduism. And each level has a name and is sort of described, and you get a lot of details. Now, what I think all of these business of different levels of heaven and hell are doing, I think they're really describing the idea of spiral dynamics. And this is this thing in our century. Ken Wilber is famous for coining this phrase or elaborating this concept of spiral dynamics. It's the idea that we're spiraling up, that we're always spiraling up or spiraling down in vibration. And so 7 levels of hell, purgatory, and heaven is just saying it's all a spiral. You're going up or down the spiral. So that's the prep. Now I'm going to talk about the first story. So I have a colleague, ministerial colleague, and his name is Mike Bogar, and we were talking one day, and we were talking about what we believe, what we agree with in New Thought, what we don't agree with in New Thought, and this sentence popped out of my head, and I said, what I really believe is captured in the story Teddy by J.D. Salinger. Now, people may have heard of J.D. Salinger because he wrote Catcher in the Rye. Well, he published in 1953 a collection of 9 short stories called 9 Short Stories. And the last story is called Teddy, and it's an incredible story. I'm not going to tell you all that's in this story. I'm going to edit out the piece that I think is pertinent today. So I'm telling you, okay, Teddy in the story is a 10-year-old genius on a cruise ship with his parents and his younger sister on their way back from a trip to England, where Teddy was being interviewed by a group of psychologists because he's like this genius. At the start of the story, he's standing on some luggage looking out the porthole of his parents' cabin, and he says, "Someone just dumped a whole garbage can of orange peels out the window. That's interesting. I don't mean it's interesting that they float. It's interesting that I know about them being there. If I hadn't seen them, I wouldn't know they were there. And if I didn't know they were there, I wouldn't be able to say they even exist. Some of them are starting to sink now. In a few minutes, the only place they'll still be floating will be inside my mind." If you look at it a certain way, that's where they started floating in the first place. Teddy's father interrupts him and orders him to look for his sister Booper and get back his camera, which Teddy gave her to play with. Teddy goes to the door and he says, "After I go out this door,
I may only exist in the minds of my acquaintances. I may be an orange peel. This is what a 10-year-old spiritual genius says. And his parents are very conventional. Like, they got this kid who talks like this. Teddy goes to the top deck and finds his sister Booper stacking shuffleboard discs in the company of a little boy named Myron. And Booper says, "Myron, you're making it all shadowy so my brother can't see. Move your carcass." She's 6, by the way. Teddy stood over the 2 stack of discs and looked down praisingly at them. "That's very nice," he said. "It's very symmetrical." "This guy," Booper said, indicating Myron, "never even heard of backgammon. They don't even have one. He doesn't even live in New York, and his father's dead. He was killed in Korea. Now if his mother dies, he'll be an orphan. He didn't even know that, did you? You're the stupidest person I ever met. You're the stupidest person in the ocean." "He is not," Teddy said. "You are not, Myron. All I need now is 2 giants. They could climb up on that smokestack and throw these at everybody and kill them." Teddy said, "Take the camera back to Dad. Don't forget your swimming lesson at 10:30, and Mother wants to see you." "Well, I don't want to see her. I hate you. I hate everybody in this ocean." I love this scene because it perfectly depicts 2 very different levels of consciousness. Evolved and not evolved. Okay? It's great. Next, I mean, she just hates everyone and everything. It's perfect. Next, Teddy moves to a deck chair to write in his journal, and his journal entries reveal that he is a very mindful individual. So this is what he's writing in his journal. "See if you can find Daddy's army dog tags and wear them whenever possible. It won't kill you and he will like it. Write a condolence letter to Dr. Wakawara about his nephritis. He's 10. Try the sports deck for meditation tomorrow morning before breakfast, but do not lose consciousness. Also, do not lose consciousness in the dining room if that waiter drops that big spoon again. Daddy was quite furious." I could have asked Mother where Daddy's dog tags were, but she would probably say I don't have to wear them. I know he has them with him because I saw him pack them. He's very mindful. He's very paying attention, okay? I think it is very tasteless of Professor Walton to criticize my parents. He wants them to be a certain way. It will either happen today or on February 14th, 1958, when I am 16. It is ridiculous to mention even. It will either happen today or when I turn 16. Now, when I read this story, I thought, oh, he's talking about when he's going to attain enlightenment, but no. Teddy's journaling is then interrupted by a young graduate student named Nicholson who has been following the research on Teddy and the gossip about him in psychological circles. And he starts grilling Teddy about various things. So Nicholson, as I understand it, you hold pretty firmly to the Vedantic theory of reincarnation. Teddy, it isn't a theory, it's much a part. All right, we won't argue that point for the moment. Let me finish. From what I heard, you've acquired certain information through meditation that's given you some conviction that in your last incarnation, you were a holy man in India, but more or less fell from grace. I wasn't a holy man, I was just a person making very nice spiritual advancement. Then I met a lady and I sort of stopped meditating. I wasn't so spiritually advanced that I could have died and gone straight to Buddha. Or Brahma. But if I hadn't met that lady, I wouldn't have had to get incarnated in an American body. I mean, it's very hard to meditate and live a spiritual life in America. And this was the 1950s. So being born in America was like his karma that he had to pay off. People think you're a freak if you try to. My father thinks I'm a freak in a way, and my mother, well, she doesn't think it's good for me to think about God all the time. She thinks it's bad for my health. Nicholson, I believe you said that you were 6 when you first had a mystical experience. I was 6 and when I saw that everything was God and my hair stood up and all that. My sister was only a very tiny child then, and she was drinking her milk, and all of a sudden I saw that she was God and the milk was God. I mean, all she was doing was pouring God into God, if you know what I mean. But I could get out of the finite dimensions fairly often when I was 4. Not consciously or anything, but fairly often. Nicholson, you did? You could? And they go into a long discussion because he asks how you do that, and the explanation is way beyond what Nicholson can understand. And later Nicholson says, isn't it true that you informed the whole Lydecker examining bunch when and where and how they would eventually die? No, it's not true. I told them places and times when they should be very careful. I didn't tell them when they were actually going to die, though. I could have, but I knew that in their hearts they really didn't want to know. I mean, even though they teach religion and philosophy and all, they're still pretty afraid to die. It's so silly. All you do is get the heck out of your body when you die. My gosh, everybody's done it thousands and thousands of times. Just because they don't remember it doesn't mean they haven't done it. It's so silly. For example, I have a swimming lesson in about 5 minutes. I could go downstairs to the pool and there might not be any water in it. This might be the day they change the water or something. What might happen, though, I might walk up to the edge of it just to have a look at the bottom, for instance, and my sister might come up and sort of push me in. I could fracture my skull and die instantly. My sister's only 6 and she hasn't been a human being for very long, and she doesn't like me very much. That could happen, right? What would be so tragic about it, though? What's there to be afraid of? I mean, I'm just going to do what I was supposed to do, that's all, wouldn't I? Nicholson snorted mildly. It might not be a tragedy from your point of view, but it would certainly be a sad event for your mother and dad. Ever consider that? You know Sven, the man that takes care of the gym? Well, if Sven dreamed tonight that his dog died, he'd have a very, very bad night's sleep, because he's very fond of that dog. But when he woke up in the morning, everything would be all right. He'd know it was only a dream. And what he's saying, by waking up, you wake up to the truth of the spiritual dimensions and you don't feel bad when somebody you love dies. And how many people have heard of Byron Katie? She's the one who does the work. She's attained enlightenment in this lifetime. And somebody came up to her and said, how's your mother? And she said, oh, she's great. She died. Because she was really old and she was in a lot of pain. And the person was freaked out. How can you talk about your mother that way? It was like, she's fine, she's dead, she's alive. All right, Jesus was enlightened. That's why he could say to the thieves being crucified on either side of him, today you will be with me in paradise. He was enlightened. That's totally obvious from everything in the accounts, even though some of it's distorted. Okay, and at the end of the story, after they're done talking, Teddy leaves to go to his lesson, and Nicholson suddenly remembers something he wants to ask him, so he goes down to the pool, and as he opens the door to the pool, he hears a little girl scream. And she pushed Teddy in, and he died. That's the end of the story. So he knew when he was going to die. I love that story. I believe everything about that story. Okay, second story is about a boy. There was a boy in upstate, or I think he was born in the Midwest, and he was about, I think, 6 or 7. And he kept going on about how he had always been interested in airplanes, and he kept going on about how he had been a World War II fighter pilot, and he had died in an air battle. And he said that he lived in upstate New York, and it was in this certain town, and he lived on this certain street, and he knew the address, and the parents, to shut him up, took him to the place, and there was a big house there, and there was an 80-year-old woman living there, and they told her, we're bringing our son because he says that, he was the boy of the people who built this house. So they come in, and the little boy walks in the living room, and over the fireplace is a portrait of a girl. And he says, where's the other portrait? And what nobody else but the woman knew was that she had a twin brother, and when he died in an air flight in World War II, and when he died, they removed his portrait and put it up in the attic. So it was confirmation that he really was the boy. Now, what I love about this story is, so what? He's 7 and she's 80. What are they going to do? That relationship is changed forever. They are not going to be the same brother and sister they were. He would have been 80, she would have been 80. It's a curiosity. It's information. We're religious scientists. We don't want to deny that, obviously, this boy confirmed that he had been alive in a life before. I think as religious scientists, it's useful for us to pay attention to the information. But people who get all caught up in past life regression and who they were in a previous life, you know what? I think sometimes that's kind of a false path to go down, because you still have to live in this life. Maybe you'll find out, like I saw a psychic a long time ago, and I'm deathly afraid of snakes, and the person said, oh, you were tortured to death by snakes in the Egyptian era. And I was like, oh, okay, well that makes sense. And I'm still terrified of snakes today. So now I know why. Okay, well that was great. Okay. All right. What I take from this story is that remembering your past life has limited use. It may arise out of a strong desire to connect with something or someone from a past life, so that's an impulse or a desire. Swami Shivananda says in What Becomes the Soul After Death that Mother Nature is kind and does not allow us to remember the past. If you have a giant karmic debt that you are going to pay off in this life, it may require great suffering, you don't need to spend your whole life waiting for the axe to fall. Like, maybe you did something really terrible, and now you've set up, and the person who you did it to, or whatever, you're going to have to pay a price, and you've set up that you're going to pay in this life. You don't need to know all life long that this thing is coming. So I think, and the Greeks believed that all souls were required to drink from the river Lethe, which is the river of forgetting, so they wouldn't remember their past life, so that you get a fresh start. And that's why a lot of people not only don't believe in reincarnation, but don't want to believe in reincarnation because they don't want to know. And you know what? You get to not know. Just like there are people who want freedom of choice, but there are people who want freedom from choice. There are people that just tell me how it works, tell me what to do, tell me how to get to heaven. I'm going to stay within the lines. I'm going to do what I'm supposed to do. And you know what? That's okay. That's perfectly okay to go through life. And if the only way you'll be good is if you're terrified of going to hell, well, if that'll keep you on the good path, well, then that's working for you. And it's not true for me, but it's true for some people. Let's everybody take a deep breath. Because we are all learning that it's okay that people are really different from us. Right?
Right.
Yes. Okay. And in Greek mythology, if you had the choice also to drink from the river Memnosine, which is the river of remembrance, and if you choose that, you come back enlightened. Now, my third and final story is from this wonderful book. It's called Mystics, Masters, Saints, and Sages. It's an anthology of first-person accounts of people's enlightenment experiences. Paramahansa Yogananda is in here, St. Catherine of Siena, St. John of the Cross, Meher Baba, Gangaji, the Buddha, and every single one is different. So when you attain enlightenment, and you will attain enlightenment because you're an eternal soul, and you will attain enlightenment in the perfect way at the perfect time for you and not before, and it may be in this life or in the next life or in 100 lives from now, but you will attain enlightenment. Isn't that good to know?
Yes.
And it will be unique to you. In this book, everybody's enlightenment account is completely different, and it's really great. It's a wonderful thing. So if you want to be prepared for when your moment of enlightenment comes, you might want to read some of these accounts. Just like if you were going to skydive, you might want to read some accounts of people skydiving so you get a sense, or people who do bungee jumping, or people who learn to play the cello. You might want to hear what they have to say about what it's like to learn the cello, and I know because I'm learning to play the cello. Anyway, Eckhart Tolle is the person who wrote The Power of Now. And how many people have heard of him? He's like a modern, he was born in Germany, I think. Okay. So this is his account. One night, not long after, he says, until my 30th year, I lived in a state of almost continuous anxiety interspersed with periods of suicidal depression. Mm-hmm. And if you see him, I've been to presentations by him, he does not seem like a person who's full of anxiety or bouts of depression. One night, not long after my 29th birthday, I woke up in the early hours with a feeling of
absolute dread. I had woken up like this many times, and it was becoming stronger than the instinctive desire to live. So it was becoming really suicidal. I cannot live with myself any longer. This was the thought that kept repeating itself in my mind. Then suddenly I became aware of what a peculiar thought it was. Am I one or two? If I cannot live with myself, there must be two of me. If I cannot live with myself, there must be two of me. The I and the self I cannot live with. Maybe only one of them is real. I was so stunned by this strange realization that my mind stopped. I was fully conscious, but there was no more thoughts. Then I felt drawn into what seemed like a vortex of energy. It was a slow movement at first and then accelerated. I was gripped by an intense fear and my body started to shake. I heard the words, "resist nothing," as if spoken inside my chest. I could feel myself being sucked into a void. It felt as if the void was inside of myself rather than outside. And suddenly there was no more fear, and I let myself fall into that void. And I had no recollection after that. I was awakened by the chirping of a bird outside the window. I had never heard such a sound before. My eyes were still closed, but I saw the image of a precious diamond. Yes, as if a diamond could make a sound. This is what it would be like. I opened my eyes. The first light of dawn filtered through the curtains. Without any thought, I knew that there is definitely more to light than we realize. That day I walked around the city in utter amazement at the miracle of life on earth, as if I had just been born into this world. For the next 5 months, I lived in a state of uninterrupted, deep peace and bliss. After that, it diminished somewhat in intensity. But even the most beautiful experiences come and go. More fundamental, perhaps, than any experience is the undercurrent of peace that has never left me. Sometimes it is palpable, and others it's like in the background. Later, people would occasionally come up to me and say, "I want what you have. Can you give it to me or show me how to get it?" And I would say, "You have it already. You just can't feel it because your mind is making too much noise." That answer later grew into the power of now. Before I knew it, I had an outer identity again. I had become a spiritual teacher. And I include that, I said, life, death, afterlife, rebirth. But some people are reborn in this lifetime. Some people are reborn because they become Christians and they accept Jesus as their Savior. And some people are reborn because they attain enlightenment in this lifetime. So you've got a great future. You're going to be enlightened at some point. You'll be filled with peace. You'll be filled with deep peace. You'll know everything you need to know. You'll have all the answers. You'll be a joy to be around. Nobody else's behavior has the power to bother you, upset you, annoy you, or drive you crazy. When you're enlightened, nothing that anybody does will bother you. Isn't that something to look forward to?
Yes.
All right. I'm going to take a little bit of that background music, and I'm going to close with a prayer. So I told you 3 stories. Teddy, the fighter pilot, and Eckhart Tolle. All right? I did what I said I would do. Let's take a deep breath. I'm going to invite you to close your eyes. Find yourself centered in the place where you are. And right in this moment, make contact with your eternal being.
know that that which is breathing you loves you, accepts you, supports you, and is with you always. For a moment, place all of your fears, what you call your problems, and place them way far away. In this moment, understand that everything that you think is a problem is a nothing. Everything that you think is a limitation is an illusion. Everything that you think is a threat is a nothing. I bless our eternal life, our eternal livingness, our absolute freedom, and the limitless and vast bliss, which is our true nature. I declare for each person here today that in some perfect way you have received a message of liberation and are better prepared to face that trivial transition called physical death. And that in the time of the releasing of your physical body, you will remember these words. You will be at peace, you will be free, and all will be well. And for this I give thanks. And so it is.
Well, that was wonderful. So you speak and you can sing. Who knew? Wow, that's pretty awesome. You know, normally at this point we have like a second song, and I'm thinking to myself, like, well, can I get up and sing? And I'm like, no, maybe I can do an impromptu rap. No, that ain't happening, especially not about the afterlife. I don't know what would come out of my mouth. So at this point of the service, we will move into our prayer and our offering. So if you, like we had before, we got those little yellow prayer cards. So at this time, I would invite you to just take out those little prayer cards. And just if you have something that was inspired by today's service or whatever else is on your heart, just go ahead and just invite you now to take out and just fill out that prayer. And if you're watching online, you can submit a request through the Genesis website, genesiscsl.org. And we submit those to practitioners, and they are praying on for you weekly.
You can do an impromptu dance.
The prayer dance.
Thank you.
So with that same blessing and intention, we're going to move into the offering part of our service. Please remember that our center is supported by God, and we are welcome you to be a part of how God support shows up. If you're on Facebook, visit our website again at genesiscsl.org, or you can text your tithe to 206-807595. Let's take that now. Just a moment, and we can craft our offering. Your prayer cards and your offering up to your heart, and we'll say our blessing. Oh!
Yeah, she's got
I'm putting them up to my heart.
Oh, you're just going to go around and collect them. Okay, cool. All right, well, good to go. We're doing this all on the fly. Okay. Well, we'll take a moment. Let's go ahead, put them up to your heart. I want to say the divine. Let's just say the divine blessing for our offerings right now.
divine love through me, blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive,
and I am thankful. Okay, you continue, Cynthia. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Excellent.
Do you have any collection music? And so just taking a moment in with divine blessing, just knowing that the law of circulation works. It works purposely for us, and just knowing that these blessings of offering are energies, and these energies that we give into source automatically pours out forth into the world tenfold. And so with that knowledge and that truth and that knowing, I just give absolutely great thanks for all that is. I call this God because it is all God, and so it is.
Yes.
And so I just really appreciate you joining us for a service. It all worked out so absolutely beautifully and perfectly today. And so just thank you. Have an absolute blessed week, everyone.
Thank you.
Oh, we have the release. Let's say release then. I didn't know if you were going to have it. Okay, let's get up and then sing release.
I release and I let go. I let the Spirit run my life, and my heart is open wide. Yes, I'm only here for God. No more struggles, no more strife. With my faith I see the light. I am free in the Spirit. Yes, I'm only here for God. I am free. I am free in the Spirit. Yes,